Hey, Wellspring Tech, it's time for service review again, and I actually have a couple of things to jump right into here, so we're just gonna go ahead and get started. So during our first service, let me go ahead and full screen this. This is not, so this is something that we corrected pretty quickly, but I just want everybody to be aware of what's going on. So let me get this to load. So at this point, we are in the very first clip from the message from Back to the Future. And a couple of seconds into the message, basically what happened is this. So we're watching the movie, and then it goes and cuts over to Pastor Joey on camera two. And so this happened both on live stream and on the side screens. So I'm just going to explain what happened and what we need to do to make sure this doesn't happen. Basically, the way that we're playing the video back for the movie clips is effectively a camera. So the video switcher sees it as a camera input. And so when we start the clip, it makes that camera live. And so what happened here was camera two was made live. And so when that happens, the video input was no longer live. So it's pretty, it's a pretty easy solution to just not run into again. But just to be aware of it, when we're watching the the movie clips, we cannot be switching camera angles. Um, so if you're trying to set up a shot, use the preview window because you just won't be able to switch cameras without making that live and making the clip no longer visible online, as well as on the side screens in service. So first service, we had a couple of other minor issues, but really that was the big thing. So I just want to go and talk real quickly about a couple things. First one is that at the beginning of second service, lighting operator was not at their desk, so it took a while. You can see everything's dark here. Um, I ran over and turned the face lights on there, but it was not very subtle and it was just not great. So I know the countdowns are different, but let's just try to be aware of what time it is in the day, um, how close we are till service starts, so that way when we are ready to get moving, nobody misses their positions and being on time. The next thing I want to talk about here is the audio for the vocal mix. So I'm going to play this clip for a few seconds. Here's what I want you to listen for, though, is that the vocals are not mixed together super great. So we're trying to work on making sure that we blend our vocals better a little bit. So you'll hear this clip, and Trabora is sticking out pretty significantly, and so is Ryan, and you can't hear Kaylee at all. And then the background vocals are just not blended super well with Cambry as the lead singer. So I'm going to play this, and then I'll talk about that for a second. Make us an offer. We're gonna stay here till we can count you. Till we can count you. So it's not bad, it's not horrible by any means, but I think that when we're mixing background vocals, we want them to kind of uh, be a little bit further in the background. You can hear Cambry, which is great, but it points during this and also the rest of the service. The lead vocal kind of falls into the background vocals, and so you can't actually even really tell who's leading the song. And so just be aware of that as far as like this person's leading the song, make sure that their vocal is the strongest one, and then kind of blend the others down. Try to use them as instruments realistically. So try to just use them to fill the room, make sure the mix sounds good. But we don't necessarily need the background vocals to stick out for the most part, unless there's specific parts in the song that would require that. Quick video thing. If we go to this point here, you can see that the roaming camera is just a little bit overexposed. So her face is like super washed out. So um, there's a couple other shots throughout the services where this is the case, and then there's also a few shots. There's quite a handful of shots that are perfectly fine. And so as roaming camera operator, just try to be, I know there's a lot when you're like just running around and trying to get shots, but just try to be aware of things like this because it's a super easy fix to just like dial that ISO back real quickly for this shot and then bring it up for the next one or whatever that might be. Um, Another camera thing over here. So in this shot, so this is a shot from camera 2. If you look at it, you'll notice that the crowd here is in focus and the singers on stage are not. Now, I don't know if this is intentional. It may very well have been intentional. But I just wanted to mention it so we're aware to be paying attention to where our focus is. So when you're pulling focus, make sure that your subject is in the shot. So if the intention was the crowd, then that's fine. But typically in a shot like this, I would imagine that we're trying to focus on the people on stage. So just try to be aware of where your focus is at all times. Before you take the shot when you're live, even if you need to adjust focus while your shot's live, as long as you do it slowly and marginally to make sure that it's not super noticeable, then that's fine. And video directors, I know it can be hard to tell sometimes, but just in your heads, try to do like a double check of focus and composition before we make a shot live. Another little spot here for audio. We go here, the vocals are sitting way too high in the mix. And I'm going to play this, and basically what you'll find is that I can hear the vocals, but I don't hear a whole lot of the other instruments. Like the kick is pretty quiet. The bass I can barely hear. The electric I can barely hear. So really the bands can come up higher or the vocals can come down lower, but we don't want to only hear vocals. We want to make sure we can hear all the instruments on stage as part of like the whole thing. Like it really makes a difference for the experience. So I'm just gonna play this clip and you'll hear what I'm talking about.
His arms never tire. His cries are like
Maybe.
Come on, if you believe it this morning, sing it. Jehovah, Jehovah. So call the name, tire. His cries are like fire. There's no, come on, if you believe it.
So the other thing, last thing, it's audio related again. If we go to this part right here. So we go into this this bridge here of the song, and basically what we have happen instrumentally is everybody drops out except for effectively just the bass. And so we have this really, really important big bass line that should be super audible. And we play this and you can hear it kind of in the background, but it's not really there. And so for guys running audio, just kind of try to be aware of knowing the song, but also knowing being able to pay attention to what's going on in the room and say, hey, we dropped everything else out. Let's make sure, like, if you've got an electric lead happening, make sure that's up. If you've got a keys lead happening, make sure that's up. We got this cool bass line here. And you can kind of hear it, but it's definitely not where I want it to be. So I'm just going to play this and you'll be able to hear that for a second.
He fights your battles. Jehovah Nissi fights your battles. We'll sing it again. Here we go. Jehovah Nissi fights your battles. Come on, that's his name. Jehovah Nissi fights your battles. Hey, hey, hey.
So you should be able to hear that as far as like you've got that really nice bass line going and it's just not super audible. So just again, just something to be aware of lead lines and all that kind of stuff when we're talking about, especially when we break down a song into just an instrumental part or something where we've got only one instrument playing or something like that. We really want to make sure that the room stays filled, the room feels good. And it's a little bit easier to do front of house than it is broadcast because you've got acoustics that you can kind of work with of the room, and you don't really have that with broadcast, but it's just something to try to better yourself and try to make that experience a little bit better when we're talking about things like that. So yeah, guys, overall, I know I tend to get nitpicky, but overall, it's still really, really good service. We had a couple issues first service. But we adjusted quickly, everybody pivoted, and we didn't run into any of those issues really second or third service at all. We didn't have anything. Um, I do want to shout out Sue. So Sue mentioned or noticed third service right as we were about to start that um, we were actually in the playlist for last service. And so I don't know how that happens, but we almost started with the lyrics and background for the first song of previous service, which would have been pretty bad. So good job, Sue, for noticing that. Really appreciate when you guys have that extra eye for detail because we can't always notice and uh, grab everything before there's an issue. So I'm just grateful for everyone, grateful for you guys being so dedicated to excellence in what you do. So we really appreciate you guys. If you can make it to the Worship and Tech Christmas party, I know I sent the dates in the WhatsApp group, but I just want to reiterate it. It's on December 13th, just so that you hear it. So add it to your calendars. We'd love to see you there. And I'll talk to you guys when I see you next.